Did you know that there's a connection between the High Priestess card and the Pope? Interesting. And particularly interesting considering, bless his heart, he did a good job, best he could considering, that he happened to leave yesterday. I am going to read, so hold up here for 2 times. If you don't have a long attention span, it's not going to be very long, maybe 5 minutes. But I'm going to read from this book, which you need. It's backwards, so it says Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, a Tarot Journey for Self-Awareness. It is, if you want to deep dive into tarot, it's the book. Like, there is no other book this great. Okay, so let's talk about the High Priestess card and how it relates to the events of the weekend. It also came up in my reading from yesterday. Okay, the High Priestess. Throughout the Middle Ages, the story persisted that a woman was once elected pope. Disguised for years as a man, this supposed Pope Joan made her way through the church hierarchy to the top position, only to die in childbirth during an Easter celebration. Pope Joan was most likely a legend, but the Visconti Papess was real. In the late 13th century, an Italian group called the Guglielmites believed that their founder, Guglielma of Bohemia, who died in 1281, would rise again in 1300 and begin a new age in which women would be popes. Jumping ahead, they elected a woman named Manfreda Visconti as the first papess. The church graphically ended this heresy by burning Sister Manfreda in 1300, the year of the expected new age. Some 150 years later, the same Visconti family commissioned the first set of tarot cards as we know them. Among these unnumbered and unnamed major arcana appeared a picture of a woman later decks titled the Papess. The name persisted until the 18th century when Coeur de Gébelin, believing the tarot to originate in the Isis region of ancient Egypt, changed the name to the High Priestess. Today both names still exist, as well as Veiled Isis. And it says here the weight image on the card, but it's actually Pamela Coleman Smith who illustrated the original deck of this card with weights meanings. So let's give props. Thank you. And the Coleman Smith image of the card derives directly from the Isis priestess symbolic clothing, particularly the crown representing the 3 phases of the moon. The Pope Joan legend and the Manfreda Visconti are not simply historical curiosities. They illustrate a major societal development in the Middle Ages, the reintroduction of the female and feminine principles into religion and cosmology. The images and concepts associated with the masculine role had dominated both the church and Jewish religion for centuries. As a result, ordinary people experienced the religions of priests and rabbis as remote, harsh, and unapproachable, with their emphasis on sin, judgment, and punishment. They wanted qualities of mercy and love, and they identified these with women. Like a mother shelters her child from the somewhat distant strictness of the father, the female deity supposedly would intrude for the pathetic sinners against the unremitting judgment of the father. It is interesting to realize that in many ways, the church saw Christ as the Son in exactly that role of introducing love and compassion, yet the people still demanded a female. Even the idea of the church as Mother Church did not go far enough. Finally, the church capitulated by raising the Virgin Mary almost to the level of Christ himself. Many writers and scholars believe that the elevation of Mary, as well as the priests' costumes of long skirts, originated from the church's desire to assimilate a persistent goddess religion from the days before Christianity. This would indicate not so much cultural conservatism as the power of the female archetype to remain a hold and, at least partially, triumph against suppression. Interesting. So yeah, what interesting times we're in that meeting happened, talking about compassion, that he left Earth on Easter, and that we get this card and we know in our hearts that divine feminine is needed and is rising and is unstoppable.